Game 2, Hand 5. We are in the small blind with the King of Hearts and the 10 of Diamonds, and everyone has put out a $15 ante. And the blinds are $75 and $150. And the action continues with the under the gun player putting in a minimum raise of $300. Under the gun is the seat to the left of the big blind. And let's see what happens after this. The next player folds, and then we have another fold, and the button folds. Comes back to us, and I call. The reason why I call a raise, I do this when I see a minimum raise from late position. If I see somebody in the hijack seat or the cutoff or the button, if I see them put in a minimum raise and I'm in the big blind, I ignore my cards. No matter what I've got, I always call. Then, when the flop comes, I always put out a half pot size bet, totally ignoring the cards. It's bizarre that 99 and 44 and 100% of the time, my opponent will fold. I love it. It's one of my favorite things to do. This is kind of a variation on that because I'm in the small blind, and I played this game some time ago, so I'm trying to remember. I think that what I was thinking at the time was that because of the size of my stack, I could afford to call that raise without it hurting me too much, hoping that the big blind folds. Because if the big blind folds, I already know what I'm going to do no matter what comes on the flop. I'm going to put out a half pot size bet. So let's see what happens. The big blind folds. I know what I'm going to do regardless of the cards. It turns out that the flop gives me a winning hand. The 9, 10, Jack, Queen, King, straight. So, what should I do? It might be a good idea to just go all in right now because there are two clubs out there, and if my opponent has two clubs in his hand, another club on the turn will give him the flush that beats my straight. But let's see what happens. I did my standard thing I do. Remember, I'm not really paying attention to this game. I'm watching a movie or I'm writing an email or something like that. So I put out my half pot size bet. It's a standard thing I do, regardless of the cards. I probably wasn't even looking at the cards. I just know what I do, okay? And so my opponent calls, okay? Well, this can get dangerous. Let's see what comes on the turn. Thankfully, it's not another club. However, we now see a pair. When you see a pair on the table, you've got to be really cautious. You know what? He could have a pair of queens. I've seen people play very meekly with their big pairs. He could have a pair of queens, and now he's got quad queens. Try to say that 5 times fast. Quad queens. He could have a full house. Maybe he was holding Jack Queen. That would be a reasonable hand for him. And in that case, he has 3 queens and then a pair of jacks. That beats my straight. So that's what I thought. Yeah, so I go all in. I want to shut down this hand now. I don't want to give him the opportunity to improve, hoping he doesn't have a pair of queens or a jack queen in his hand right now. Apparently he did not, because he folded and I won the hand. So try to remember if you've got a winning hand, don't do what I did in this one on the flop. I put out a half pot size bet. I think it would be better to shut it down at that point. Don't let your opponents get there.